Greetings, members, one and all of the Salivation Nation. What will the price of gold and silver be in 2030? Let's take a look from a trusted source, shall we? The World Bank. Now, of course, I was being sarcastic, and it's not to say that some of this analysis may not be rooted in some truth, but I find sometimes with some facts can be stubborn things, but facts can also be twisted things as well. You know, we heard Rudy Giuliani talk about how truth isn't truth. Well, it's somebody's version of the truth. In this case, it is a prediction, and using some analysis based off of some facts and trends and the like. But, you know, predictions are typically based off of models and trends of the past, typically. And but not always is the case is the past indicative of what will happen in the future. And when we look at a place like the World Bank, which some theorize, you know, has a sort of a globalist agenda, you know, you kind of have to take it for what it's worth. And this is referring to commodity markets outlook from the World Bank, focused specifically on oil, but also everything that's kind of tied into it in some way or another. And that includes energy. And when you think of energy, well, you can't discount things like silver, for instance. But let's take a look at this World Bank report that came out in 2018. I think you can find it quite fascinating and interesting to see some of this information we'll explore together here. Let's see here. We'll look at the table of contents here. And it's more towards the end that we'll find some information on metals and minerals, and that's on page 23. And we'll go down from there. World Bank's Metals and Minerals Price Index, you know, it discusses individual metal trends about nickel and the like, and how it's related to things, especially with China. At the time of the writing of this report, the sanctions in Russia and the trade tensions between the U.S. and China and EU are starting to have an effect here. But we see some of these charts talk about the existing metal and mineral prices between base metals here, iron ore, and you can see aluminum here, and you can see the kind of the differences in prices and how they're kind of going up because of some of the things going on with the trade war or trade tensions, I guess, per se. There's still some argument as to whether there's a trade war or not, but and then there's some projections and things like that with related to aluminum and production metals. But this is where it gets really interesting with regards to what we look at here, and that is precious metals. And talks about how they think, this is back in April, that the precious metal prices are projected to rise 3% in 2018, but with some divergence. Gold prices are expected to rise 3%, supported by firm investment demand. Platinum prices are seen climbing 4% on tightening mine supply. Silver prices are forecast to ease slightly on moderating industrial demand. Upside risks for the forecast include deepening geopolitical tensions, delay in central bank rate increases, and a weaker than expected dollar. Downside risk includes stronger economic growth, rising equity markets, a stronger dollar, and an easing in geopolitical tensions. So it's interesting. Here we look at some interesting charts showing precious metal prices. You know, since January 2010, we see a lot of these look familiar to us in terms of their pricing structures here. And then we see global mine production there between the different continents there. Quite interesting. Moving down, though, we see historic commodity prices and the price forecast, and this is where it gets really interesting on what they think of where precious metals and other commodities are going to be based off the historical look on the prices here. We'll kind of scroll past these here pretty quickly here until we see the precious metals look here. So here we have between the 2016 and the quarters therein, and then monthly reports for the 2018. We can see where gold has been trending upwards. Now it's since moved back under even the 2016 levels here. Silver, the same thing since April, since March. And then, but this is where it gets really interesting, commodity price forecast in nominal US dollars. Now, this is interesting, and see how this goes. All the way up to 2030. So you can see where things go. Let's take a look at some of these other commodities and see where things are going, how natural gas is expected to climb substantially by 2030. Interesting. And then coffee and everything is supposed to stay pretty level in nominal US dollars. And then we see coconut oil rising somewhat here. Palm oil. Interesting. Where the forecasts are for these different things, you can kind of look and see there where things are. Fertilizers, the metals and minerals. Let's take a look here and look at aluminum and where it's going to go. Marginally up a bit. Copper, it's going to climb somewhat, but not terribly high. But let's take a look at gold here. Now keep in mind we're looking at 20, 21, 25, and 30 from here. This is 2020, and it's going up here. And so gold is going to go down to $1,100 in 2030. Silver is going to go down to $16. And it's interesting because in a previous report, it said it was going to go down to $13. So that's kind of an interesting forecast, but that's in nominal dollars. And platinum is at $1,500, so it's expected to climb. Now, I don't quite remember nominal. If nominal dollars means that it's at today's dollars. If it's at today's dollars, what these prices are, then that $16 could mean it's $13, and $1,100 for gold could mean that it's much less. That's probably below $1,000, at least well under $1,000 today, if that's the case. And platinum would probably be trading for $1,200, $1,300. It's the only one that seems to be going up in price. So I'll have to look into that, but it'll be reflected in the title of this video for sure. I'll look that up afterwards, nominal dollars. I'm expecting that probably means in today's dollars, not the projected value of the dollar in 2030. And not a good outlook from the World Bank here. This is from their official report. It's quite interesting indeed to see how this will all play out. If it'll come true or not. You know, it may. I kind of doubt it, though. I think it's going to, I think by then, by 2030, that's 12 years from now, I believe that we're going to see precious metals at least preserve their value by then, is my guess. So we'll see how it all plays out. What are your thoughts of this report? Do you think there's something to it? Or do you think there's something sinister behind this report and what they're preserving? If there is a, and I believe, again, most of the people who understand how I feel about some theories. There's nothing wrong with theories and questioning everything, really questioning everything, especially anything that any government or world organization does. And I do believe that there's some agendas behind some of this stuff. And I believe that there's, to some extent, a globalist agenda at play that we're fighting. It may not be as powerful as some theorize it is, but I believe that in some cases there's powers that be that probably don't want us to accumulate silver and gold. So this report would suppress, would certainly would give us a pause about what we're doing. And because they see it as a dying asset or what have you, or but on the other hand, something to take into account. But I don't believe that gold and silver can be really accurately predicted that far out, especially with such low prices considering. Because even if that is adjusted for inflation, those prices are low in my opinion. But nonetheless, post your thoughts below. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude y'all for watching, and encourage you to please rate, comment, and subscribe.